Take two. So I'm in my policy area, the compliance area for Azure, and I'm working with PCIDSS for my virtual machine. And so what I'm going to work through today is remediating um, the PCIDSS Windows firewall compliance requirement. So honestly, just to recap, this actually gets configured inside of um, Defender for Cloud. So when you go into Defender for Cloud, you can open this up here, and you can open up Cloud Security. You open up Regulatory Compliance, and as we scroll down, you can see I have a couple of items here listed as ISO 27001, NIST 853. But what I'm working through today, which Azure just conveniently wanted to remove my PCIDSS today. Let's try to refresh this now because it's being weird. Azure is a very strange product, I will say. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm glad I'm catching this on video because this is good consistently. So if you come into policy, if we go into here, we see PCIDSS 4.0.1, and we can see we're going to filter by domain. And we see a lot of things aren't compliant right now. So log integrity monitoring, intrusion detection prevention. So I'll look into that later. But we're going to start with network security controls, which is requirement 1. And you can see here I have 4 things that are compliant. Now it's referring to it's showing inbound traffic to CDE, outbound traffic from CDE, NSCs are implemented between trusted and untrusted networks, and inbound traffic. So if you go into these, now originally I started just working with this NSC, this network security control, and all I did was I implemented some policies. We got an issue. So let's go back to install and maintain this network security controls, requirement 1. And we can see, I'm going to start here. This is where I started before. And we can see here inside of policies, I have one that's compliant, and really the requirement was setting Windows firewall properties. And so you would have to go through and match the specific items to be able to remain compliant. So for whatever reason, 0 of 1 are non-compliant. So this would typically show you that what is compliant, what is not compliant, and it'll tell you here what are the options that you need to set to make it compliant. So going into the Windows Firewall Domain Profile User Settings, you have to make these changes right here to the Windows Firewall Domain Firewall. You need to change it to the expected value in all of these items. Domain outbound, domain settings, local connection security rules, apply local firewall expected value, and you got to go through each of these items. Windows Firewall Domain, apply local connection security rules, and default value it'll show is 1, and then it'll give you an expected value whenever you run the scan. And so right now all we're seeing is default value for like Windows Firewall private display notifications. And so you have to go into the policy of the group policy, and you need to make a change in order to get that put into place. Now it's the thing is, it gets tricky because it reads the registry, and so the changes that you make to the firewall or the firewall policy, it applies to the registry, and when it scans the registry, it pulls a value of either 0 or 1, and whichever is the expected value is what you have to change it to. So the tricky part is you have to figure out what the expected value is. We're going to create a new virtual machine, and what we want to do is we want to make it so that we basically go from compliant to non-compliant, and we'll have 1 of 2 being non-compliant, specifically for requirement 1 in the the policy that we were in. So switch to domain, switch all, install network security controls, apply, and implement. All right, inbound traffic to CDE is restricted. Okay, so we want this to go from compliant to non-compliant. And so I'm going to launch a machine really quick, and I'm going to try to take this from basically non-compliant from a new virtual machine all the way through to making it compliant. So I'll select my resource group, I'll select my virtual machine name, Windows Server 2. So I mean my second one, I'm going to put it in US, keep it in US West. Okay, there's an extension that we need to add. So it is called, alright, so Azure Performance Machine Configuration. So Azure Machine Configuration Extension for Windows. So this is what it's actually called. So we'll just take a screenshot of that later from this video. So this machine configuration performs audit configuration operation inside of work machine and policies such as security baselines for Linux Windows can't check settings. Alright, so that's what it should be, Azure Machine Configuration Extension for Windows. Let's click on that, we'll click next. Azure Machine, okay, create. Alright, so we did the Azure Machine Configuration Extension for Windows. And what I want to do is I'll go into virtual machines, see if I can, okay, I can see this Windows Server 2, and I just want to look at whether that extension, alright, there we go, Azure Policy for Windows, so that extension was correct. Alright, so the deployment is still in progress, so while that's still working on that option. Alright, now that we got our virtual machine up, if we circle back to the policy and compliance and we open up our requirement 1 for PCI, we can see here that the NSCs are showing non-compliant for the new virtual machine. And what I like to see here is that you can see the actual requirement 1.4.1 and the display here. So you should be able to see inside of the Defender for Cloud, but it's taking forever to load. So I did want to show you that you can see the requirement 1.4.1 right here. Now going into policies, we can see we have one that's non-compliant for the Windows firewall properties, and we can dive into it to see a little bit further. We have our new Windows Server 2 that we just created and we just spun up, so that's non-compliant versus our other one that was still compliant. And we go further into it, we can see the Windows firewall property is what we need to make an adjustment to. So jumping into the policy itself, we can see the various details of the policy that we need to address for the local policy of the machine. Well, for my machine, it's going to be local. For your machine or in your organization, it might be your domain controller policy. And so we need to address the profile settings, whether it be the domain, the public, or the private, and identify change the default value to the expected value. So let's take a look at what I mean by expected value. So we'll jump over into this PowerShell command that I ran. You can see here, you can see it specifically says an expected and an actual value. So you can see right there, expected 1, actual 1. Sometimes you'll see when it's not compliant, it will say a certain expected value, and then ours will show either if it's not been set yet, it'll show null, or it'll show the opposite of what it is if it's incorrect. So let's see if we can find one here. You see expected 1, actual null. That means we haven't set it yet. So we need to go in and configure our policy to actually set it to meet the expected value so that it'll now be compliant. And so it's about close to 30 or so configurations that we need to adjust to be actually compliant in just this one particular policy. So it's a lot of changes that you have to do. You can't necessarily just change one profile and see if it changes to compliant. You have to change the entire all of the controls to be expected, the actual to expected to be switching from non-compliant to compliant. I know that you were looking for possibly a video that can walk you through the Azure regulatory compliance PCI standards, and I created this video so that it can be a resource on YouTube to get you from starting a particular requirement, specifically for this video, requirement 1, dealing with Windows firewalls, and getting you all the way to the point of being actually compliant. Now, of course, you probably, if you were like me, you probably look for a bunch of videos on YouTube that would not help you get to exactly what you were trying to accomplish. And what I will say is this video gets you from start to finish and gets you a completely compliant status for this particular requirement that we're starting with. The official video is actually about 2 hours long. This is just a sample video. If you want to get this video, you can reach out to me, and I'll either provide you the video, or if you would like a resource that someone could actually help you go from non-compliant to compliant on your virtual machines or any other Windows device that you have, then I can walk you through that process as well. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Scotty Harris Jr. You can look up linkedin.com/in/Scotty Harris Jr. That'll take you to this site here, and connect with me. Shoot me a message. Let me know you saw the video, and you would either like to get the rest of the 2-hour complete video, or if you want to get actual help from a live person, then let me know. I can assist you with that as well, and help you get your resources in compliance. So now that we have this, we had triggered, and I did a refresh, and both these Windows servers are compliant.